Hello and welcome to Motors for the Masses, and I've just watched the final ever episode of the Grand Tour and I've got a few things to say. So let's roll the intro and get cracking. So yes, it's finally come to an end, and I was very pleased to see it's 2 hours 10 minutes long and not an hour or an hour and a half, so that's quite pleasing indeed. Something else I was quite impressed with is that they've got a Capri. You gotta love a Capri. My very first car when I was 17 back in 1991 was a Mark III 1.6 GL Capri, which was unbelievably cool back then, especially when everyone else was driving around in Mark I Fiestas and Metros and Minis and stuff like that, and there's me in my Capri. Definitely very cool. Although my friend had a Toyota Corolla, which is what Hammond had. He wanted a Capri, and it broke, so he had a Corolla. I had a Capri and my friend had a Corolla. I'm not saying that's anything to do with it, but, you know, just saying. Those were obviously the cars of the day. But anyway, what did I think of it? Well, obviously, I've been a massive fan of those three, a massive fan of Top Gear when it was those three, and a massive fan of Grand Tour. And it is sad that it's come to an end. Now, I know they're going to be talking about Grand Tour continuing with new presenters, and please, I implore you, don't do it. It didn't work with Top Gear, it won't work with the Grand Tour. By all means, have another car show with a different name, with new presenters, of which of course I am available. I will be willing to present cars and motorbikes. Amazon, if you're listening, or anybody else, sign me up, because I'm interested. However, don't call it Grand Tour, because it won't work. You can't carry on from a legendary show with three legendary presenters and expect it to be the same. Now, don't get me wrong, the Top Gear transition with the panel of 7 with Chris Evans leading it did not work for me at all. The closest it got was when you had Chris Harris and Matt LeBlanc, after he'd got out of being an actor, you know, and releasing his actor mode to become a presenter. And who was the other one? I can't remember. Someone else. It's just mostly those two. Those two worked well together. Rory, but I wasn't a fan of Rory. I actually prefer Rory, what he does now on YouTube, than I did back then in Top Gear. A bit try hard for my liking, but anyway, that's besides the point. I'm getting off track here. So yeah, those two were okay. The least said about the last duo mostly, the better, because I'm not even going to go there. But anyway, the Grand Tour, that's what we're talking about. I loved this episode. It had comedy, it had realism. Now, I know that's the thing that's got me before. The Grand Tour always had staged things going on, and you could tell they were staged. Richard, however funny you are, you're funny naturally. You're not funny when you stage things. The same with Jeremy, and even James. Does it mean he's not coming on then? Got very tired very quickly. But anyway, yeah, I loved the episode. There was lots of real emotion in there, lots of real feelings, and I think they could feel as though they could say what the hell they like, because it was the last one. The swearing doesn't bother me, even though my 9-year-old son's going to watch it, because he loves Grand Tour and he loves Top Gear. Funny enough, I go to sleep at night with my iPad on, because otherwise, if I don't, my brain starts racing and I think of stupid things and I wake up with a headache. My son loves to go to sleep with his Echo Dot on, and it's always, and I mean always, Grand Tour. He refuses to watch this last episode because he's currently back on season 1 and he wants to watch it all the way through to season 6. He's 9 years old. He loves Grand Tour. He finds you three hilarious. So thank you for entertaining my son as well as me for him 9 years and me 22 years, because I've been an avid watcher since the beginning. But anyway, this episode was it was full of all sorts. It had real emotion, it had reminiscence, it had comedy, it had genuine emotions, genuine laughter, and genuine banter. And that's what we're going to miss. You know, it was brilliant. I loved that you started with those three cars. The Stag, which is James May's version of Jag, I think. Obviously, the fact that that Clarkson had the Lancia was great. I do like the Monte Carlo. I like the Monte Carlo ever since it was in Herbie. And Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. And there's a Monte Carlo in that. And I thought, oh, that's a nice looking car. It's quite subtle in its beauty, but it's got that sort of Pininfarina-esque feel about it. And yeah, I do like the Lancia, albeit being an early Italian car, the reliability and the least said about that the better, so we'll move on from that. It actually proved to be pretty decent in this. The only bit I won't say didn't like, I'm not going to say didn't like, but I felt it was a bit okay, was when they wrapped everything in silver. Because obviously you didn't do that, obviously it's been in a massive smelter and dipped in silver, because you certainly didn't dip that horn or even the steering wheel in that little saucepan of silver. I liked the touch with the gold, that was good, a little dash of gold on this and that. Love that. And the boats, great touch, I like that. And yes, I do like that they kept referring to, no, we've done all that, we don't need to do all that, we've done that. The train thing was good, and I've never understood why. I get that when you put a train on tracks, you have the lip on the inside, so technically if it moves to the left or right, it's going to hit that lip, so it's not actually going to derail. But you'd think, for common sense sake, they'd put a lip, just make it wider, but put a lip on the other side, so if it does shoot across, it doesn't fly off like it did. I'm surprised it flew off quite quickly, not even before getting out of the yard, especially considering how fast they were going on some of the other roads. But I did notice from under the car shots just how close to the edge some of those rails were. Pretty scary stuff, but beautiful country to go through, beautiful view. The fact that they stopped and stayed in massive hotels because they could, loved that. I agree with Jeremy, and I see why he's ending it, because he just doesn't have the interest in electric cars. I get that. I see where you're coming from. I'm a massive petrol head. I've got two Mustangs myself, a 2016 V8 and 1971 V8, so I'm all about the petrol headedness. I've got a 1972 Mark I Escort as well, and a 1999 Audi A8. I'm very much a petrol head. I can't get my head round the new Capri, and I can't get my head round the Mustang Mach-1. I liked it. When I reviewed it, I thought it was a brilliant car. It should never have been called a Mustang. It should have been called a Ford Fusion for obvious reasons, but we'll move on from that. But yeah, I get where he's coming from. It's just not an interesting future, is it, in terms of vehicles? So I understand that. Hybrids, yes, I can see that, because you've still got the petrol engine element, but electric, it's just dross and droll and boring, isn't it? I don't care how quick a Tesla is. A child's toy does not sound as exciting going down a drag strip as a big V8. It just doesn't. I don't care how quick it is, that's irrelevant. I'll take the slower, louder, more impressive looking car any day. Any day. But anyway, that's the future, and I suppose we have to embrace it in a certain way. I mean, I'll drive electric cars. I like them. I just don't love them. It doesn't fill me with desire for vehicles. I appreciate them and I get where they're going, although they're nowhere near there yet. And the price is, and it should be more, but it isn't. But anyway, The episode, sorry I keep digressing, but there's just lots to think about in this whole thing. I like that they finished in Botswana. The little bit at the end where they were sort of reminiscing between old and new, and they're replicating that. It's very emotional. It's very tear-jerking. I didn't cry, but as a man and a man's man, you know, it's still heart-wrenching to see it. You know, to see where they've come from. The biggest thing I saw was how big Jeremy's gut has got for the last 22 years. He was always a big, tall ape, but now he's a gorilla with this big sort of pot belly. And when he's sitting in a car, it just exacerbates the size of the thing. It's just, oh dear. Richard hasn't really changed much. His hair's got a little bit shorter and a bit more wiry, and James is still a bell end, but the three of them together are just superb. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Loved the end where they keep bringing even the echoes. I mean, it's like like the end of Fast and Furious when they did the tribute to Paul Walker, and they did the tail off at the end. It's like, that did make me cry. That got me. That really did. But this was just a nice tail off at the end. The funny bit in that, loved it. James May, delete. Superb. Love that. Absolutely love that. It's I mean, obviously they've got their own thing going now. James has got his various bits going on with his cooking thing. Love the episodes he did with James May in Japan and in India and stuff like that. Absolutely watch all those. Again, something else my son watches. Richard, I'm keen to see where the smallest cog goes. Now, my 71 Mustang, funnily enough, is about 90% complete. And the guy who's doing the wiring at the moment has had it since last November, and he still hasn't done it. I would love to be able to bring it to the smallest cog to finish it, but I can't afford that, unfortunately. Anyway, of course, you've got Jeremy with his Clarkson's farm. Again, love that. Started off as typical Clarkson right at the beginning. Now it's Clarkson the farmer. And I like seeing that. Although he seems to be doing well off living off it and spending a lot of time on his arse in tractors, by the looks of it. Mr. Rotund. But anyway... So, I get where they're going. They're getting to that age now where they want to move on and they want to do their own thing, and they've put a line under it. I implore you again, producers, Amazon, don't continue the Grand Tour. Start a new program, a new car and motorbike. We need motorbikes as well. A car and motorbike related program. Don't call it the Grand Tour, because I don't think it'll work. It didn't work with Top Gear. They became legendary. And Top Gear, even though Top Gear's been going since the 60s, you know, back when Angela Rippon did it and people like that, it's just brilliant. But they made it, since 2002 when it was relaunched, they made it a very different programme, and it became their Top Gear. And the same with Grand Tour. That was theirs from the off, and it became their Grand Tour. No one can replace that. You can try, and you may get a few new type of viewers that don't like those three, but it's never going to be as successful. But let's see where it goes. So, how did you feel about it? Let me know in the comment section below what you thought about the programme. There's nothing I didn't like about it. You know, apart from the silver dippy bit, but it was funny. I honestly thought when they got to the border, and they had their heartbeats going and they were looking through, that something was going to happen. And I think that's what they played on. They did that because they thought the audience would then go, oh, someone's going to get stopped. Is it going to be him? Oh, no, it's not him. So it might be Rich. No, it's not Richard. Oh, it's got to be James, isn't it? It's obviously going to be James. And then, they all got through. Sort of an anticlimax, but it worked because it was like, for once in their life, there isn't a weird disaster. With the doors off and everything. Again, with the first cars, the Mercedes and the Lancia Beta, them being there, I don't know if that was a fortuitous plant, unless it was a fortuitous plant by the producers that the presenters didn't know about. I don't know, but it was nice. It was nice to see. What I liked about it is when they took a photo and showed Richard almost as though it wasn't a plant. I don't know. I mean, you try and read into these things. When you see falsehoods going on and you see staged events going on, it kind of puts that in your mind. But whether it's true or not, I don't know. I just found the whole thing very, very entertaining. And I'm glad that you've got all those episodes, because I can go back as well, like my son does, and watch throughout again and still find things that I missed the first time. Because you've done so many, you almost forget what happened in the first ones. So you just enjoy it all over again because there's so many of them. It's just months and months of enjoyment that I can then finish watching and then go back and watch again in the future if I want to. As long as Amazon keep it on there, and they should do. So yeah, very much enjoyed. The bit that I found odd was the cars. Obviously, they didn't break down, and I don't think they break down anywhere near as much as they make out. I think obviously they chose differently in these cars. It's surprising to see how much they spent on them though. £20,000 for that Capri, and 17,000 for that Lancia. And 25 grand for James's. What did he have? Oh, Triumph Stag, of course, yes. I mean, you years ago, obviously they're like 1,500 quid cars and 3 grand cars and 5 grand cars. But the amount of money they spent on these cars now, it's almost like they just went, bollocks to it. We're just going to do whatever we want this time. But yeah, found that very entertaining. The bit that I also found funny was the Beetle that they just launched off. That was terribly staged. Jeremy, you're not an actor. The bit where obviously they're doing it's obviously staged and it was obviously entertaining, but I think they could have reworked that a little bit differently. I had a couple of ideas myself when they were doing that, thinking, oh, are they going to do this? I'm going to do that. And it was like, oh, was that it? But yeah, it was quite entertaining. The bit that I wanted, that I hoped they would do, is show the driver and include the driver of the backup car. Because however great these entertainment things are, and however fantastic it is that they make these journeys, you never see who drives the backup car, and they're making that journey as much as they are. That car's always there. So kudos to all the backup cars that obviously make these journeys as well. And I want to know if they have the same driver for all the backup cars. I'm sure they don't over the last 5 or 6 years. I'm sure they have different drivers. But I wanted to see that driver. I wanted him to be included. Or her. It looked like a him from when you could see the outline, but it might be a her. It could be a they. But yeah, I wanted to see that person driving that backup car. I wanted to see who that was. Include them in your final episode. But you didn't. That's disappointing. Kudos to the backup driver. Well done, whoever you are, was, and will never be again. And that's all I've got, really. Thoroughly entertaining. Very much enjoyed it. And I'm sure you did too. Let's see what the future brings. Yeah, that's all I've got. If you've got any comments, leave them in the comment section below. I'll be back very soon with another bike review, and I've got a couple of products coming up as well that I'm going to bring you, so stay tuned for those also. So please don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Click the notification bell also for future uploads, and I'll be back very soon. So until next time, please ride and drive carefully, but have fun. Bye-bye.